As a regular consumer in the video game industry for the better part of over a decade, I've seen the best and worst of live service games, starting with the initial hype, the endless updates, and then eventually leading to a slow, painful death because developers couldn't manage resources correctly or figure things out before things fell apart at the seams. And after experiencing a decade of garbage, and then getting a positive experience through recently with Warframe and doubling down, grinding the content that it has, I've really asked myself if live service gaming is truly like awful and bad and the devil in disguise, or is it just fundamentally flawed in that the real issue has been developers not doing it right? Yeah, I'd say that's probably true. And there's a lot of reasons here in this video that I'm going to definitely break down as to why that actually is. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. And I think one of the first reasons that comes to my mind is the amount of monetization a game might have, yet they don't have any content to back up the amount of monetization they have. I mean, let's break this down really easily and simply. A lot of these live service games have a battle pass or microtransaction shops galore that feel like they're the ones that are the forefront, or rather the ones that get the most development on, rather than actual content for the game. And this content being more like maps, new weapons, new characters, new gear, that kind of stuff that really should be the more on the forefront and have more of the development time rather than these wacky cosmetics for some games that they don't clearly belong. But that's what they choose to focus their time and effort on, are the battle passes that implement FOMO, the fear of missing out, to make you feel like you're going to miss out on these cosmetics forever if you don't jump on and play the game. Or even the microtransactions that they do put in that say, the words limited time or get it while supplies last. I mean, it's a kind of common business tactic, not just for video games, but for really anything out there. It can be applied to clothes or DVDs, movies, like special box sets, that kind of thing. It's all a manipulative mind game that businesses like to do, and video games are no stranger to that. Because it even makes you question if a game is actually free when so much of this content is locked behind paywalls constantly, and it really limits in what you're able to do. So the question you have to ask is this game really free, or am I just playing a free trial? And then here's another point to bring up is, how does this make the developers feel? The ones that work a 9 to 5, sometimes even overtime, leading into the 12 to 16 hour range, believing that's an actual sort of work hour range when it comes to overtime in the video game industry. But anyway, these developers, they feel under pressure to make this new content to keep up with the demand that players might have, or rather the shareholders and stockholders might have, as a way to keep inflating the numbers. And sometimes these good ideas that developers have, they end up just being surface level implementations, never really being fleshed out to hit that true potential that they actually wanted. Which I think is really sad when you think about it, because there's so many ideas out there that are in these live service games that have like a basic level of implementation, such as, well, really the best example I can think of is Rainbow Six Extraction. Yeah, I'm probably sure none of you have really heard of this, but it was basically a spin-off for Rainbow Six Siege, where it had the basic mechanics and idea from their live event or their limited time mode, where it was basically the operators going against aliens. And I remember playing that and enjoying it so much, but there was only so much you could do. It was just little ideas stitched together, and it was just surface level. But then Extraction was taking those ideas and kind of stretching it out a bit, but probably due to time constraints and developers being spread thin, they couldn't really expand upon the idea of Rainbow Six Extraction and really give it that depth that it needed. And that game ended up just being abandoned and forgotten, and that was that. Which I think was just such a damn shame, because it really could have worked what they were going for in Extraction. I mean, it was right there. It was just all surface level. It didn't have much depth or content that it needed to really make it not only flourish and survive and thrive against Rainbow Six Siege, but even stand on its own as something that, maybe the more PvE crowd, people like me, could have enjoyed, but really liked Rainbow Six Siege's mechanics and gunplay. But that's what I mean, is that a lot of these developers, they have these surface level ideas like this that they can't fully realize because they're on that weird time crunch, or their time and effort and energies is focused on other things that's going to actually make the shareholders and stockholders money. Because that's what these live service models that we've seen, for the most part, about 95% of this industry has really been, is all about money and keeping up with short-term profits instead of the long run and the flourishment of gaming communities, which doesn't help, games that are live service and actually want to flourish and thrive and actually build up that community. This doesn't help it. It just makes it worse because it makes it come off to players as you just doing either the bare minimum effort or only doing something on a surface level just to keep, appearances going. It's, showing off of, oh, we're still updating the game, we're still here, we're still breathing. Here's a little update sprinkled in. Even though it's not much, it's here, even though we made you wait for a couple months for it. Which, honestly, is probably why a lot of these developers, the good ones, the ones that really made those titans and giants like back in the day, whether it be the older Call of Duties, Halo, and even the older Battlefields, this probably is one of the reasons why they left their studios and wanted to make their own games and studios themselves, even if on a smaller scale, so they didn't have to live up to those crunch times and those deadlines that they were being forced to squeeze out games on. So that's another point to consider. Before I bring up my two other points in this video, if you've liked what I had to say so far, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to know when I post another video. I usually try to post my videos around the end of the week in the evening. And also check out my Rumble as a nice little backup just in case something might happen here on YouTube, or if that's your more preferred platform that you like to watch. But also check out my live streams I like to have every Saturday. I've actually just recently changed the time due to a recent poll to be now at about 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. A lot of people seem to like that time more than the old time that I was streaming at, so we're going to shoot for that from here on out. Anyway, heading back to the video. One of the last 2 points I want to make is just how much these live service games are obsessed, and I mean literally obsessed, with keeping players in their game no matter their cost or any means necessary. Because these live service models really make it seem like they care more about you just being on the game no matter what, that you can't play any other game, and that if you play another game, it's a really bad and scary thing for them. They feel like they have to keep you addicted and on that grind just to keep you around, because for some reason, you leaving the game is going to make you never want to come back. Well, if people catch on to your model like this, yeah, they're definitely not going to come back if you give them an excuse to not have to come back, because all you're doing is hurting their fun and enjoyment, because people don't play video games as a second job. They play it for fun and enjoyment. And a lot of these live service models seem to forget that. I mean, seriously, I can bring in the elephant in the room, Destiny 2, and how they were literally so obsessed with keeping players in that they centered the game around FOMO and how detrimental it can be to any player for dare leaving the game and playing something else. Because that's apparently an inherent bad thing at old Bungie. And that they felt like they needed to make this a second job. And people don't like work. Most, if not all the time, people don't really like working. Even if you do like your job, there's still aspects of the job that make you go, ugh, I can't believe I have to do that. So most times, I'd say 9 times out of 10, people don't like to work. And the ones that do are probably workaholics. But making video games a second job that doesn't pay the bills or keep things afloat in the household isn't really fun. That doesn't really keep people around, or at the very least, keep people around willingly. Because finally, a game like Destiny 2 finally has hit the breaking point where players are so contempt that they'd rather just drop everything and leave for the sake of their own sanity. So, take that as you will. And the last point I want to kind of touch on, and I think it's more the least well-known idea, is how a lot of these live service games really are against how players express their love of them. Now, what I mean by that is, and I think it's more on the modding scene, because really, a lot of live service games don't allow mod support of any kind. And I honestly think it's really one reason, and it's really simple, and it's the ego. It's that mentality of developers not wanting to give any player any sort of say or do in how they design the game in their process. And yeah, this seems like a sort of niche reason, but I have seen this a few times to notice a pattern. And it's kind of sad because really I think it's one of the more important ways that people feel inclined to continue playing the game is that they're actively contributing to it, whether it be through mods or just even ideas and feedback and being listened to. Because even if there is no mod support for a live service game, it doesn't make or break the game. But it's a way for players to express their, love or passion for a game, that they're willing to make a mod or submit an idea that could be implemented. And there are a few live service games out there that do take that feedback into consideration. And one of them being Warframe and Deep Rock Galactic. I don't actually know much about Deep Rock Galactic, but it is one that I've heard a lot of positive things about from the community, and it's been around for about 5 years, I'd say. And Warframe, I've talked before on this channel, especially in my last two recent videos, which I'll leave them up on the screen if you want to check them out for a more in-depth guide. But these two games seem to know what to do and how to do it right, because really, it's not that hard to keep players engaged. You got to prioritize quality over quantity. People want to play games that are complete, but are still leaving them hungry for more. And sure, it's not going to last forever, and things come and go, and things have to come to an end at some point. A lot of these gaming developers and companies need to really learn and understand that sometimes it's okay to slow down updates and not make players feel pressured to come back, because we used to have this back in the day. I mean, even the older Call of Duty, if you want to bring up an example of them, people left to go play other games, but they always came back because there was an incentive to come back. There was actually hype and build up for these updates and content, and it made people come back willingly. Because if you force people to come back, eventually people are going to resent you over it, especially if it's the same thing over and over, and it's like just on a basic level, like basic window dressing. So when it comes to the original question I posed at the beginning of the video, is live service gaming fundamentally flawed? I think the short answer is yes. And I think it's more flawed in its implementation and how developers have handled it. And again, I think games like Warframe and Deep Rock Galactic really show that it's not that hard to do. You just have to be willing to crush some of that ego and some of that 100% control people feel like they have to do. If you can drop those two things, then really the idea of live service is not inherently bad. And hopefully we'll start to see more games like Warframe and Deep Rock Galactic, but time will tell at this rate with how this industry's going. But in the meantime, at least we have these two as a great example. So anyway, I think that's all I have to say in this video, and I'll see you guys with another one. You all take care and have a good rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you guys this Saturday with the 6 p.m. stream time.